Hi, it's that time. I've been promising this video, I guess probably several times ever since I was in New York. But I'm finally going to do it here because I have a little bit of free time. I'm actually up, I'm ready, I've got all my stuff done. So yeah, let's make some use of free time and let's give you kind of an overview of respiratory protective equipment. So, had lots of questions about this and things to order and what to get, what not to get. And that's really not a super easy question because there's a lot of detail that goes into it. I made the mistake the other day of totaling up how many hours I've been in PPE since April, and I'm somewhere right around 800 hours right now of masked up and trying to protect myself from the Rona. So I've got a lot of hours in this, and I've noticed some trends. Actually, that 800 hours was just on the job. That doesn't include like out and about in the community. I don't even know. I don't know. I'm probably pushing over 1,000 hours, I would guess. I have no idea. It's a big number. By the time I leave Texas, it's going to be a bigger number. So here we go. We're going to start off with some of the most simple stuff, and then we're going to work our way up to some of the the bigger, more impressive gear. So we're going to start off with basically my bread and butter cloth mask. This was actually made for me, and I love it. I cherish it. I've got 2 of these. My buddy Doc, his daughter he said, "Dude, you're going to New York. My daughter's making masks. Can she send you a couple?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, man. That'd be great. I could actually probably use that." And she sent me a couple of masks, and they were pretty darn good. But I've got a giant head. I wear like a size 8 hat, so most masks, it's like they either sit like this or they sit like this. It's like they never give me this. That never happens. I'll show you some more of that here in just a second with some of like the surgical masks, so what we're up against. But for this, this thing is beautiful. I love it so much. So you see me out and about, and this is how you're going to see me. So we've got a nice little metal piece right up here that is perfectly formed to my nose. Little ear loops, and it's some double layer, tightly kind of bunched, just a nice washable fabric. And this is super comfortable. It's cozy. It's it breathes reasonably well. Of course it's a little hot and a little steamy in here. After I wear it for a while, my beard has been steamed. My lips get chapped. I'm prone to some of the same problems everybody else has when you're wearing a mask for long periods of time. But it's better than buying an ET tube and choking on that for weeks at a time, right? So we make do. We try to find the best alternatives we can. And so for me, this is my base level walking around PPE. So it gives me a little bit of protection from droplets, and it protects other people from me spraying stuff out uninhibited into the world. So there we have that. So then we have, like the hospital grade surgical masks. And we've actually got a couple of different types of these that I'll show you. And so on the surface, these look pretty much exactly the same. They're a little different. So these, with this kind of strip, this actually has a really good quality metal piece in here that's almost the full width of the mask. This gives you a really good seal right across through here. The only problem with this is it's kind of short. I just can't really get it to work for me. But that's okay. These work for most people. They work really well. And you have these, which the strip in them is a little bit more flimsy. It's not quite as effective. But these are a little bit longer. I can actually wear these, but it's kind of annoying because it doesn't seal here. I feel like I'm blowing air up into my eyes. the more air that leaks around these, the less effective they are. The point is to pass the air through the filter medium and try to make sure that we're not blowing stuff out into the atmosphere, and that anything that comes in has to actually, the droplets and things are stand a chance of reducing the amount of virus that you could be exposed to. So both of these are good, valid things. They don't last super long. They're, these little cords on the side can pop loose, especially when you got a big giant head and you're strapping them way back here behind your ear. So they're suboptimal, but they're okay. And a lot of people are using these, and if it works for you, that's awesome. You want to watch for that seal around your nose. You want to feel like when you breathe in and out, you can feel that mask moving some, because that shows you that you have a relatively good seal and that the air that you are breathing in and pushing out is actually moving through that filter medium and not blowing around out into the world. That's what you want to look for. So for me, I have found a way to use these, and I will show you. This is kind of a specialized little hybrid thing, and what I have done is I have taken one of each of those, and I actually like this a lot, and I've kind of put them together. And so you can see, I don't know if you can see here, but you have some staples where I've put these together, and I double up. And I can pull this like this. And so I get a good seal down here on the bottom, because this longer mask goes over my chin and really gives a nice tight snug fit. And this really good metal piece up here gives me a pretty good fit here. So I end up with the length I need. Both of these support to give good seal to my face. And it's comfortable enough. These start hurting on my ears back here pretty good, just because, once again, big giant head, regular people-sized mask. So, but this works. It feels pretty effective. In a pinch, this is kind of like my backup emergency plan here. So if some of my big rig PPE, if something happens to it, it fails, I like leave it laying somewhere, it gets a big exposure that I can't clean easily. This is where I'm going, so because N95 stuff has some limitations for me, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but this is something that I like a lot, and so this is my fallback emergency plan. It works. I can actually feel, this moving on my face as I breathe in, breathe out. I can feel that I'm not moving any air around any of these seams, and that double layer of protective medium makes me feel pretty good. So anything that gets through the first layer is, viruses are tiny. They basically blow right through these little pores, but they don't travel alone. They're not like on little gossamer wings. They're usually moving with droplets, and they're usually in slightly larger kind of concentrations. So these things do help. Are they perfect? No. Is it better than nothing? Absolutely yes. No question. Zero question. Better than nothing. And once again, our goal is to mitigate risk. It is to reduce the level of exposure. We are not going to get exposure levels to zero. Another thing is this kind of stuff. I'm not going over eye protection today, but you got safety glasses, you got goggles, you got full face shields. You got all kinds of options, because you got to protect those mucous membranes. You got to keep things away from your eyes. You have to remember not to touch your face. So that's something you have to incorporate into this as well. All this stuff. If you're just out and about, you probably don't need to worry about eye protection quite as much if you're wearing something like that. But if you're in the healthcare environment, you're in higher risk, higher exposure areas, covering your eyes is a good thing. Another thing that I've seen a lot of people doing, and I'm going to go ahead and do this now. I'm going to keep this on. That way I can prove to you that wearing a mask, you don't fall over dead from CO2 exposure and CO2 concentration increase. So I'm going to do some of this video with this on. Up next, after this, we have some of the high quality N95 kind of masks. These are pretty good. They are, for most people, They are very comfortable. They're very effective. They are certified. I don't know. Can you see that? Certified N95. It will have the NIOSH certification identified on the mask. It'll tell you if it's an N95, a P99, P100, P95. And then let's touch on that. So the N stuff is basically like the disposable stuff. It's considered traditionally single-use gear. And then you have the P stuff. We'll talk about this in a second, but like these filters, the big puck filters, these are P-rated filters, which means they are oil resistant and in general certified for much more durable use. And so that's when we start getting into the professional grade stuff. But I digress. We'll get there in a second. So, but these, for most people is pretty good stuff. So there are people that I worked with in New York who basically used this plus maybe this kind of a mask to wear over it to protect it and get the seal. So it's kind of a version of this, so I've got the 2 layers of masks here. This is something that people did and do, and it works. You wear this as your base layer, and then you wear something like this over it. It's done that way in general to protect these masks, act as a pre-filter, and also help keep it stuck down to your face. And it protects them because we're being asked to wear these not just for one patient, but for multiple days in some cases. So protecting these is a paramount thing of great importance. So that's one of the reasons why you see people wearing a mask over a mask. To demonstrate how that kind of works, I can't use this because once again it's not big enough for my head. I get these things given to me, so I kind of hold on to them for people who need them. So let's say this is my N95. Here I have Old Trusty, and then we put this over this. And this over mask serves to do what my second mask here is already kind of doing. It helps keep it in place, it helps seal down the edges, it gives some protection, and it just gives an extra layer of pre-filtration to help protect from droplets. If I need that mask under here to stay good for hours, days, any kind of thing that splashes on here, I can just get rid of this. I can wash this. If it's just a simple surgical mask, not a big deal. It protects the mask under it. And so that's one of the reasons why you see this. This is highly effective, once again, because it helps keep a good seal. It basically just adds protection and it works really well. This is kind of what I would recommend for most people. I recently had a family member ask me what I thought about different stuff and different masks. I recommended some masks, some bigger half-face respirators and things like that. But I think something like this, wearing an N95 with a cloth mask over it, or a less highly certified mask over it, is a pretty good way to go. And proof is that professionals in New York use this, used it at a high level, and they walked out of New York with no symptoms, no detectable antibodies. So it works. I've got 3 layers on here right now, so it's getting really hot in here. But once again, hey, look, I'm not dying. I'm not suffering from CO2 poisoning. I haven't fallen over from having crazy high CO2 levels. Amazing how that works. So what do we do next? Where do we go from this kind of level of performance? That's when we get into these, the half-face respirators. I'm going to take off this stuff so that way I can show you what we're working with here. I like this respirator a lot. This is a 3M unit. This is a 6503, which is a large. Way back when, as a lot of you know, I've been harping on this whole Corona thing since mid-January. I figured pretty early on that this was not going to go well. I had no idea exactly which direction it would go, but it looked ugly early to me. And so I'm like, hey, maybe I should buy some stuff before things get crazy and you can't find it at any price. So I got lucky. This was like $18 on Amazon. Didn't come with filters. I've been through a couple of different filters on this. I've used the puck filters, which are super nice. I actually like those a lot. For this kind of use, those puck filters are, we'll cover the filters here first. Those puck filters are pretty much almost ideal. Huge surface area. Air comes in really easily. Yeah, your breathing doesn't feel like it's effective. Breathing out, because of the design of the mask, is super comfortable. Most of these masks in particular from 3M, huge silicone gasket area in here, very soft, very pliable. Even before I even shaved and when I had full beard, these things locked up like crazy, locked up like a bank vault. No leakage. Everybody's like, oh, you can't get it to lock up. I can demonstrate that is flat out not the case. As a matter of fact, we can go ahead and do that now. This system's mask use what's called a bayonet filter. And so on here you see these little things. It has like 3 little lugs. Those 3 lugs correspond to the inlets here. You snip that on there and clip. It clips right into place. I'm going to go ahead and strap this on. Do I have this right? This pops up here. This just clips right behind your head. And this is nice because it has this little bar. Not all of these have this, and that's okay. And right into place. So right now this is totally unfiltered. I have no filter on here. But I'm going to show you a little bit of how this works and how you can test this. Right now, air is coming through these 2 ports. There's no filtration. When I breathe out, everything comes down through here. So they're little one-way valves, so the only air that comes in through these. The air that comes out comes down through here. When I put my hands here and block these off, I can talk. Air goes out fine, but when I try to breathe in, I don't know if you can hear that. This thing locks up like a bank vault. Super effective. No air is going around this thing. Everything that comes into my lungs is filtered. And these are P100 filters. And so once again, that's the P rating, which says that it's more durable, it's going to last longer. 3M actually certifies these for 1 pandemic wave. You can establish for yourself what that means. Some health systems are saying that it means they're good for 6 months. Other people will infer that it means that they're good for basically forever. I don't know if I buy that. I think a lot of that also depends on your usage. If you're in a relatively clean environment that doesn't have a lot of dust and a lot of goop, and the only thing you're catching in this thing is viruses, those viruses are tiny. This filter medium is huge. So there's good reason to think that this will last a long time. And that's good, because these things are hard to find. They're a little bit more expensive. They were about $10 for a set for the puck filters, $8 per set for the puck filters before all this broke loose. And now those could be $30, $40 for a set. These were a little bit more expensive. These were like maybe $15, $18, $20 for a set before. Now they're hard to find. If you can find them, they might be $100. So if you work in an environment like a body shop or someplace industrial, there's lots of dust and crazy stuff, you actually have these too. These are pre-filters. These pre-filters clip on here, clip. And so this gets a lot of that dust and crap out of the main filter. It keeps that big particulate stuff out here, and then you can just redo these. Well, hey, there's a couple of those in there. So that's a decent way of giving yourself a little bit of extra life on these. I don't use these because it makes it a little bit harder to breathe. I don't really need that pre-filtration, so I just kind of rock it like this. So another one of the downsides of these versus some of the other stuff is there's a lot of stuff going on here. You're starting to talk to people, and the environments that we're working in are loud. We've got all these HEPA filters, we have lots of air moving equipment, there's lots of medical equipment.
And as soon as I put this on, you can see that I'm not as easy to hear or understand. So as a result, we end up talking louder, and then we have to kind of force it, and so after a while, it just becomes tiresome. So while this is an incredibly effective device, it's very comfortable to wear. I can wear it for long periods of time. It does have its own drawbacks. Also, I can act like I'm Bane from Batman, which is a nice little side benefit. But so this is pretty much my bread and butter. I wear this most of the time. This mask and I have become close friends. We're buddies. We spend a lot of time together. So yeah, this is where I'm at. So there we have that.
I love this because it has this little thing, so after I'm in a safe area, I can just put that down, and then I can kind of air out my face and, kind of dry out a little bit and not feel like I don't have to yell. Then again, something weird happens.
I'm right back at it. I'm ready to go. So this is the half-face respirator. If you're interested in as much protection as you can get with the most comfort you can get, this is the place to be. You still have all your options on how you want to do eye protection, be it goggles, be it glasses, be it face shields. This plus a face shield for me is pretty much state of the art. So there's that. Face shields, you can snap them on pretty fast. It kind of covers up this whole area. I've got a couple of pictures of me wearing that get up, and it works pretty well. It's pretty solid. So we got that.
So I can flip this down. Pretty comfortable. I can just kind of hang this around my neck. So, if you're eating or something, you can get a drink. You can get hydrated with this. If you're going to eat, you just take this thing off because you don't want to, be catching like crackers or sandwiches stuff in your respirator. So that brings us to the really big equipment. Stuff like this guy, big full face respirator. This guy and we got along really well in New York. I think this is a big reason why, I came out of New York relatively unharmed. And my buddy Jeff sent this to me. Also had other folks who were helping find respirators for other folks who were hard to fit. This is a large respirator, full face, and had another shipment of the really nice, super lush 3M full face respirators shipped in, and those went to people who also were hard to fit, big-headed people who weren't going to get super good protection by other means. So these masks help save lives, not just our lives, but also having these kind of respirators gave us the confidence to start trying people on BiPAP and giving more hands-on care to people who presented a higher risk for us as healthcare professionals. So here you can see huge gasket area. Similar design in the bottom to what you have in the half-face respirator. One-way valves that pass everything through these filters. This is a Honeywell mask. So these have spin-on filters versus the bayonet 3-lug type. So when you're wearing this for a long time, because it's putting so much kind of pressure on your face, let's go ahead and strap this guy on. Okay, so you really got to get on this guy. Because this puts so much pressure on your face, it's a little bit harder to talk because you can't even hardly move your jaw. You've got to kind of keep your jaw a little bit closer, and you got to think a little bit more about breathing in and out. These filters these exceed with the other filters in that this has many layers, and this actually protects you from chemical gases. If somebody comes into the ER and starts dropping like CS gas, mustard gas,
I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be good to go. So it's going to protect my eyes. It's going to protect me. Nothing's getting in here. So, I don't know if you can hear me breathing, but you actually have to focus a little bit more on this because these things are so thick and because they're a little restrictive and they protect you from more things. These actually are a little bit hard to breathe in. So when you cry about your cloth mask and the fact that you can't breathe because of that, I wore this thing for many, many hours in New York, and once again, I didn't die, I didn't fall over. So if my old, fat, hillbilly ass can deal with this, asking you to wear a cloth or a paper mask while you're in Lowe's for 15 minutes, I don't think is totally unreasonable. If we want to have a conversation about what that means, and we can talk about that. But you're not going to die from CO2 poisoning. It's not going to increase risk of anything else. The benefits outweigh the risks, period. That's how it is. So this is pretty much the top of the food chain for this kind of thing. There is one other kind of mask that I don't have with me. I wish I did, but there are a couple of limitations.
So, okay. The one kind of mask that I'm not going to show you is the Papper, which is, basically a big hood. There's a gasket around here that uses an air pack, and it pumps air in around your head. And oh my goodness, are they magnificent. They are beautiful. There are, however, some limitations to those. And that is basically, here I'm pulling up a Papper picture so you can see what these things look like. They're magnificent in every way. They are incredible. Whereas all these other things are very hot, the Papper is basically blowing air in around your head. It feels nice and cool and refreshing. It feels like your hair is being tousled gently. It's nice. Big viewing area. You can see everything real well. People can hear you better. The only downside is they're battery powered, and those batteries don't last forever. So if I was to invest in a Papper, which I would, at this point, like I said, so I've been wearing this stuff for 800. I'll be over 1,000 hours, spending $1,500 or so on one of these systems. When you look at that amount of time, if you're wearing this thing for 15-20 minutes and that's it, that kind of investment is absolutely stupid. But if you're a professional and you're welding for a living and around welding gases, or you're working in a lab where you're exposed to gases, you're in a healthcare environment where you have to protect yourself from these nasty viruses for days and weeks and months, that investment seems a little bit more reasonable. But for me, because the kind of exposures I'm having and the amount of time that I'm in hot zones, having a battery pack that only lasts for a couple of hours is pretty restrictive. So I can't justify that. I would have to get battery charging systems and start loading batteries in and out, and so it's just a bridge too far for me. But those Pappers are excellent. They're really nice. So if you are in an environment where that applies for you and where that works, consider it. They are exceptionally nice devices. It is absolutely the most comfortable, most protective system you can lay hands on. So find one that works for you. So there it is, soup to nuts, from the basics all the way up through some of the top of the line Pro gear. So hopefully this helps lend some information, helps you if you need to find anything, helps you find what you want to find. If you have thoughts, questions, feel free to forward them to me. But hopefully that gives you some information that you didn't have before. So there's your PPE for dummies. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up so we can get this in under 30 minutes, and it is time for me to go get on the bus. So I'm going to go and do my thing. You guys have a great day. Be good to each other, and see ya. Bye.